Welcome back to my channel on linguistics and language learning. In this video, our topic is thematic progression. You know, thematic progression is studied in the level of discourse or text. It means that we are not talking only about clause level, about the structure of a clause, but we are talking about the structure of a discourse or of a text. In other words, in thematic progression, we are studying how to arrange clauses into a cohesive text. And cohesion is one of the problems faced by most of the students in their writing. So the quality of their writing is not achieved, or they cannot achieve a good quality of writing because of lack of cohesiveness. And I offer you here thematic progression as the solution to improve the cohesiveness of your text or the cohesiveness of ideas presented in a text. Now, let's study three sentences. The first clause or the first sentence, the first clause, because we use the term clause in systemic functional grammar. The first clause is the chef is preparing dinner in the kitchen. The second clause is dinner is being prepared in the kitchen by the chef. And the last clause in the kitchen, the chef is preparing dinner. What do you think of these clauses? Do they have the same meaning, or do they deliver the same meaning, or do you come to the conclusion, or do you come to the same conclusion after reading these three clauses? Well, based on the point of view of formal grammar, these three clauses have the same meaning. They deliver the same meaning because the one who is preparing dinner is the chef. What is prepared is dinner, and the place where the chef is preparing dinner is in the kitchen. In other words, they deliver the same meaning. However, based on the point of view of theme and rheme, or based on the point of view of systemic functional grammar, they have different meaning. And the meaning is called thematic meaning. They have different thematic meaning. What makes them different is the element that begins the clause. You see that each of the clauses in this video is initialized by different elements. The first element of the first clause is the chef. The second clause is dinner, and the third clause is in the kitchen. So we have different elements that begin a sentence, and these elements are called theme. Therefore, they have different theme. And when you have different theme in a clause, you deliver different meanings. That is based on theme and rheme point of view, or based on SFG point of view. Now, what is theme? Okay, we can simply say that theme is the starting point of the clause message. As I told you earlier, that whatever comes first in a clause is called theme, and different themes may have or may result in different meaning. And in English, and also in Bahasa Indonesia, and also in most of other languages, that the theme is realized by the first position in a clause. In other words, it is situated or it is placed in the first position in a clause. Next, theme contains a participant, process, or circumstance. Okay, participant, process, or circumstance, you know, they are transitivity elements. Okay, so the theme contains the transitivity elements. And is it possible to have other elements rather than transitivity elements? Yes. And they must come before these transitivity elements. Okay? If there are some other words or elements that come before participant, process, or circumstance, they are also called themes. And this is the case of multiple theme. You have more than one theme in one clause. Now, when we see theme, the other element of a clause is rheme. We can simply say that rheme is the other element, the other elements which don't belong to the theme. Whatever elements come after theme is called rheme. So we can say rheme is non-theme. And that is the place where we develop our theme. Now, we can also say that dream is the idea or the information which is presented in the local context, set up by theme. What is set up by theme? And uh, in in other words, we can say that the information in dream is controlled by the theme, because the theme is the starting point of the message. That is the most important point, the most important information in a clause. Next, of course, rheme follows the initial position. Okay, whatever comes after the initial element of a clause. Now, based on the issue of theme and rheme, uh, we are exposed to the term information structure. In other words, in the information structure, we have to be able to put which information should be located, should be placed in the theme, and which information should be placed in the rheme. And that is what we call as information structure. And based on information structure, we are introduced to two terms: given information and new information. Given information is the information which has been mentioned before or which has been mentioned earlier. Meanwhile, new information is the information which has not been mentioned anywhere in a text, okay, before coming to that information. Okay, that is new information. And given information is identical with the theme. So, theme contains given information. Meanwhile, in the rheme, we put new information. Okay, let's see the example. Ricky visited me last night. So, Ricky here is the theme, and visited me last night is the rheme. So, Ricky is given information, and visited me last night is new information. Now, when we move last night into the first position of a clause, so last night become the themes, and Ricky visited me is the rheme. That is the new information. That is the information which is controlled by last night. Okay. Now we are talking exclusively about thematic progression, because just now I need to introduce to you about theme and rheme. So thematic progression can be simply defined as the progression of theme and rheme in a clause. So we can say that thematic progression is the progression from theme to rheme in a clause. And its relation to the information structure, we can say that thematic progressions shows how the information in the classes goes on. There is thematic progression, the movement from theme to rheme, the movement from given information to new information. That is thematic progression. And I just, repeated what I have mentioned before. Theme is the point of departure, and the rheme is the the place where the theme is developed. Now, there are three patterns of thematic progressions. The first one is simple linear progression, or it is common called zigzag pattern. Second one is constant continuous theme, and the last one is theme progression with derived themes, and this is also called hyper theme. Now let's see each of them. The first one, simple linear progression. Simple linear progression is, yeah, the simple progression of the idea, or the simple progression of the clause. As I told you that when we are talking about um, thematic progression, we are talking about text. Okay, so now you can see that simple linear progression here. The key point is that the rheme, okay, the rheme of the previous clause becomes the theme of the next clause. And you see here, rheme contains new information. When it is taken into the theme, now the theme contains the given information. Why? Because the given information or the information has been mentioned in the previous rheme. Okay, and also the rheme in the second clause becomes the theme of the third clause. So this is the nature or the main concept of simple linear progression. So the theme is derived from the element of the previous rheme. That is the key point of simple linear progression. And also zigzag pattern, we only have different image or different picture. Actually, they belong to the same concept. You see that the theme here is derived from the previous rheme. The theme here is derived from the previous rheme. This is zigzag pattern. Now let's see an example. Okay, you can see here that we have three clauses. Communication is the process of transmitting a message. And the second clause, the message can be delivered through oral or written expression. And the third clause is through writing, people can communicate without limitation of distance and time. So the theme of the first clause is communication, and the theme of the second clause is the message, and the theme of the third clause is through writing. And when we draw the thematic progression of this text, now here you are. We have here communication as the first theme, and the rheme here is process of transmitting message. So one of the information in the rheme is a message, and this message becomes one becomes the theme of the next clause. And then this the rheme in the second clause contains written expression, and this information is taken as the theme of the third clause, and this one is called zigzag. Okay, so I can illustrate like this. Okay, rheme message becomes a theme, and then rheme written expression becomes writing or the theme of the third clause. Okay, so this is zigzag pattern. Now, the second one is constant continuous theme. You see, constant's continuous. Yeah, it means that the theme of the first clause becomes the themes of the second clause, becomes the theme of the third clause, and so on. Okay, so the theme of the other clauses, okay, the themes of the other clauses are derived from the first theme, that is constant continuous theme. And this is an example. Okay, you see that the theme of the first clause is Oprah Winfrey. And in the second clause, we have she, which refers to Oprah Winfrey. And then we have also she here, also refers to Oprah Winfrey. So we have here constant continuous theme or constant continuous progression. So you see, theme one, theme two is similar or is just the same with information in the theme one. And the theme three also has the same information, yeah, with the theme one. So this is constant continuous. And the last one is theme progression with derived themes. Okay, theme progression with derived themes imply that there is a hypertheme. What is a hypertheme? Hypertheme is the theme that covers, okay, all of the information that contained in the other themes. Okay, so there is one super theme and the other themes are derived from parts of that hypertheme. Okay, so you can see here, we have here, for example, hypertheme, and the theme of the first clause is also derived partially from the hypertheme, and also theme 3. If you have theme 4, so this theme is also derived partially, okay, partially from the hypertheme. That is called theme progression with derived themes. Now let's take example. Okay, you can see that Ecuador here serves as the hypertheme, and the other themes, okay, the rest of the themes is derived from part of the Ecuador. For example, the economy. The economy here, the economy in Ecuador. More oil where in the Ecuador. Bananas, coffee, and cocoa, okay, where in the Ecuador. People in the Ecuador, okay, and also several Indian languages, the languages in Ecuador, and also currency here, currency in Ecuador. So you see that the other themes are parts of the hypertheme Ecuador. That is what we call as thematic progression derived from themes or from hyperthemes. Okay, so you can see here when I illustrate the thematic progression in this text, you see that the theme is brief description of Ecuador, and in theme one, it is Ecuador itself, that is the hypertheme, and the next one, theme two is the economy of in Ecuador, and then more of it in Ecuador. So everything here is related to Ecuador. This is what we call as hypertheme. Now, why should we learn thematic progression, or how does thematic progression contribute to the cohesiveness of the ideas? Because I told you earlier in the first video, in the first part of the video, I told you one of the functions of learning thematic progression is to improve the cohesiveness of the text. Now, let's see these two texts. Which of them is more cohesive? Okay, so you can read these two texts. The message can be followed through oral or written expression. Through writing, people can communicate without limitation of distance and time. Meanwhile, the second text, the message can be delivered through oral or written expression. People can communicate without limitation of distance and time through writing. Now, let's analyze the theme of each of the clauses in these two texts. Now, in the first text, we have here two clauses, and the theme of the first clause is the message, and the second theme is through writing. And you see that through writing as the theme here is derived from the rheme of the previous clause. In other words, we apply here zigzag pattern or simple progression, okay, or simple theme progression. Now, in the second text, the theme of the first clause is the message, and the second theme is people. You see here that in the first clause, or the rheme in the first clause, does not provide any information about people. So we can say that people here is the new information. Meanwhile, based on the theory that I have already explained to you, that the theme should contain given information. But people here is not given information because it has not been mentioned anywhere in the text. In other words, we put new information in the theme. And you know that this is not proper, okay? This is not appropriate. So when I ask you a question, which of the texts is more cohesive? And your answer should go to the first clause. So the first clause is more cohesive than the second clause. Okay, that is, one of the application of how thematic progression can be used as a tool, as a means to keep the cohesiveness of ideas in the text. Now, let's see the conclusion. So, if you ask me a question, um, is it applicable to all of text types? Okay, now my answer is yes. However, different different types of text need different thematic progressions. And remember, it is impossible to have only one thematic progression in a text, but we have here um, a dominant type of thematic progression or dominant pattern of thematic progression. So I can say that different text types employ different patterns of thematic progression. Based on the research that I have done on the use of thematic progression to keep the cohesiveness of ideas of the text, I can reveal that in a narrative text, constant continuous theme is dominant. Okay, it is more dominant than other patterns of thematic progression. However, in a descriptive text, hypertheme that serves as the most dominant pattern of thematic progression. And in the exposition text, simple linear progression dominates the use of thematic progression in a text. Now, if you ask me the other question, is it possible not to have any pattern of thematic progression in a text? Of course not. Of course not. Okay? There must be a thematic progression. That's why I told you about the information structure. We have to know that the information contained in a theme should be given information. Meanwhile, the information in the rheme should be the new information. Now, let's come to the last part of this video, that is exercise. I want you to improve the cohesion of the following text. Please read the text by yourself and then do it. And if you want me to evaluate the results of your work, please send your work in the comment, okay, in the comment column in under this video. Okay, that's all, and see you in the next video.